Good morning, and thank you for being here today. My name is Allison Wright, and I'm a staff attorney at Gay and Lesbian Advocates and Defenders. For those of you who are joining us on the internet, there may be a 10 to 20 second delay with what you're hearing, so please be patient. You can submit your questions to us via Twitter. Our handle is @GLAAD. We're here today to introduce you to a courageous man, a man I personally admire, John Abdallah Onebile. John is Ugandan, he is gay, and for more than 14 years, he has fought for the rights, the dignity, and the safety of Uganda's LGBTI community. He is a founder, officer, and longtime member of Spectrum Uganda Initiatives, an organization serving the needs of LGBTI and HIV-positive individuals in Uganda. As most of you know, LGBTI people in Uganda are under attack and have been for some time. This state of siege is documented in films like Call Me Kuchu and Missionaries of Hate, which feature John, and which you should see if you have not already. John came to the US on February 21st to do some speaking and raise awareness about the situation in Uganda. 3 days later, on February 24th, the president of Uganda signed the Anti-Homosexuality Act, despite international pressure, and despite the efforts of LGBTI activists and human rights defenders in Uganda. The law imposes harsher penalties for same-sex relationships and imposes new penalties for any activities that are viewed as promoting homosexuality. It also imposes life imprisonment for serial offenders and HIV-positive individuals who engage in homosexual acts. The law is broad in its reach and criminalizes activism and public health education work related to LGBTI individuals, including those living with HIV. It was a shock and blow to John here in the United States, far from home. He came to realize that if he were to return to Uganda, he would face physical danger, life imprisonment, and possibly death. So John made the difficult decision to seek asylum here in the United States. You will hear from John in a few minutes, but first I want to introduce you to my colleague, Senior Staff Attorney Jansen Will.
Good morning again and welcome. Again, my name is Jansen Wu. I'm a senior staff attorney at GLAAD. As John will describe shortly, returning to Uganda is simply too dangerous. As a prominent gay activist, John has already risked his life, freedom, safety on behalf of the cause of LGBTI individuals. He has been arrested, harassed, assaulted, evicted, outed in the newspapers repeatedly, and threatened with death on account of being gay. Worse, he has had to endure the murder of his close friend and fellow prominent activist, David Kato. The situation in Uganda has only gone from bad to worse since John arrived in the United States to raise awareness. With the passage of the Anti-Homosexuality Act, John now runs the risk of life in prison simply because of who he is and because of his advocacy on behalf of the LGBTI and HIV-positive communities. For that reason, GLAAD, along with co-counsel Hema Sarang Saminsky, filed an application for asylum on behalf of John today. The US government should grant asylum to ensure John's safety going forward. The US has a long history of providing refuge for those who have been persecuted for who they are or what they believe. Here, John has been and will continue to be persecuted in his home country for being gay and for standing up for others like him. Those are the grounds for asylum, and that is why we believe the US government should grant his application without delay. By filing John's application today, we are asking the US government to do its part to provide a safer harbor for brave Ugandan LGBTI individuals to continue to speak out and work for change in Uganda. Asylum has transformed the lives of so many who have sought protection in the United States. In this case, it also has the opportunity to transform the lives of so many more through the work that John will continue. Hopefully, one day, John's work, along with the work of so many others, will make it possible for him to return home. I'm pleased to introduce John Onebile at this point.
Good morning. My name is Onebile, and known by my friends and colleagues as John or Long Johns. I'm a Ugandan gay man and also an activist for human rights for LGBTI people in Uganda. For the past 14 years, I have been active in the LGBTI community. I'm a leader and co-founder of Spectrum Uganda Initiatives, which works to improve conditions, reduce stigma, fight the escalating persecution of LGBTI people in Uganda and those living with HIV. Over the years, I have undertaken many activities to ensure the safety of LGBTI Ugandans, to assist people who have been arrested, to support those under attack. I have worked to create a safe space where LGBTI can gather, talk about our experiences, build community, and get support to each other. For the past several years, political, public, and physical attacks on LGBTI people in Uganda have increased dramatically, incited in part by some American evangelicals like Scott Lively. I'm just one of those who have been persecuted. I have been outed as a gay man several times in the newspapers, such as this one. These outings incited further persecution, as they were intended to do. I have been repeatedly arrested, harassed on the streets, received death threats from anonymous phone calls, shunned by some family members, evicted from my home, and physically attacked. Clients have fled from my travel business because of my sexuality and outings. In 2011, my friend and colleague, David Kato, was murdered. This was a terrible loss for me and the LGBTI movement in general in Uganda and around the world. We were so terrified. And all of this happened before the signing of the anti-homosexual bill into law in February of this year, 2014. That bill, as Alison explained, significantly expanded the criminalization of same-sex relationships and several increased penalties for a variety of offenses, ranging from 7 years to life imprisonment. I happened to be in the United States on February 24th when the bill was signed. I was shocked and heartbroken. After the signing, 30,000 people rallied in a stadium to thank the president for the bill and to celebrate by listening to speakers who called LGBT people animals, criminals, and devils. In the months since the bill was signed, some of my friends and colleagues have been kidnapped, some have been arrested, some have gone into hiding, and others have fled to other countries seeking refuge. It became clear to me that I needed to think about whether I could really return home. If I did, I would now face life imprisonment. This has been a very, very difficult decision for me. I have devoted my work and life to support the LGBT people, to ensure their safety and that they live in dignity. And it gives me great pain not to be with my community, allies, friends, while they are under increasing attack, but above all even, my own daughter. But my government is unable and unwilling to protect us. But my government is unable and unwilling to protect us from harm. So I have come to the conclusion that risking life imprisonment, serious injury, or even death to continue my work in Uganda would actually be a disservice to my community. Instead, I'm seeking asylum here in the United States, where I will continue to speak out, raise awareness, and seek support for my community. I believe in my heart that this is my only option. My heart and my thoughts today are with my community in Uganda. And as we say always, a luta continua, the struggle continues. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, we'll be taking questions for both John and myself.
I have two questions. One, can you walk us through the asylum process for him, how that works? And also, if you could answer about the role actively or positively or negatively of the religious communities, particularly the Anglican Communion and the Catholic Church in Uganda on this bill and its passage.
Sure. So the first question was, what is the process for asylum going forward for John? We, as I mentioned before, we filed John's application for asylum today with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. We expect that an interview with an asylum officer will be scheduled in the next few months. And we hope that, and in addition, we hope that that application will be granted. We believe that John has an extremely strong case based upon the past persecution and fear of future persecution that he would face for being a gay man and for his advocacy based upon LGBTI individuals. The second question, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, on the religious front, what support or not support did you get from the two, as I understand, the two major denominations in Uganda are Catholics and the Anglicans, and I wondered if you could speak a little bit about their, assistance or not assistance in the bill passage?
Actually, the Catholic Church was not so much on the front, but the Anglican Church was so much in support of the passage of the bill, and they took the lead to begin cutting relationships with other Anglican churches in the West that were calling for the acceptance of same-sex persons to still be able to live in dignity.
Other questions? Yes.
I had a question about just the asylum law in general. So is this just a bit of a technical question, but is this under social group in terms of, because gay and lesbians aren't explicitly protected, right? That was one of the concerns about asylum law right now, right?
So we are applying based upon John's membership in a particular social group, meaning LGBTI individuals in Uganda, as well as his political opinion in support of the rights of LGBTI individuals.
So it's political and social group.
Yes, because of his, because he is such a prominent LGBTI activist, he has also been persecuted for that advocacy.
And when does your visa expire?
My visa expires tomorrow.
Tomorrow. And so I just, sorry,
No, no.
to interrupt a question, but because the process can take a while, I wonder, are there concerns about, how quickly they will act and kind of how, will they give him, if you want a work permit or what, will they, what sort of will happen to you after that?
So we're working with co-counsel Kema Sarang-Saminsky, who's an expert in this field. And we've done everything to ensure that John's status in the United States remains, and that he's doing everything in compliance with the asylum laws, including with regards to any limitations on work. Question from Twitterland.
Yes, so we have a question from Mike Labers from Washington, and you might need to repeat it, Jensen.
Yes.
Actually, this is a question for John. Has the U.S. government done enough to respond to the situation in Uganda, and do you support cutting aid to Uganda? You might want to repeat that, Jensen.
So the question was, has the U.S. government done enough to support Uganda, and should the government cut aid to Uganda? And that question is for John.
The US government has been very supportive, but also we think that the US government should come up with more, look into formalities to ensure that the US citizens do not promote or take hate crimes to other countries. But on the other side, we think that the US has been very, very much supportive right from 2009 towards ensuring and trying to make sure that the bill doesn't pass, and they were very vocal. We saw President Obama, the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton were so much on the forefront speaking out about the bill.
The second question was whether or not the United States should cut aid to Uganda.
Okay, on the question of aid, we think that direct aid to the government should be cut, but the money or the aid should be channeled to the civil society organizations. Yeah.
And I would just add that one of the ways the United States can help the LGBTI individuals in Ugandan is to provide a safer haven like activists like John, so that he can continue his work in safety here in order to change the conditions in Uganda. Yes?
Has this happened before, that someone from Uganda has sought asylum based on sexual orientation?
So there's many applications for asylum. They're not all published, and so it's impossible to say how many past individuals have sought asylum from Uganda who's LGBTI identified. That being said, John is the first person we know of who has applied, I'm sorry, let me say that again. John is the first prominent activist that we know of who has applied since the passage of the law.
What can LGBT activists, allies in the U.S. do to be supportive of people living in Uganda on the ground, and also about the safety of your daughter? Is she still in Uganda?
Yeah, right now we think that there is need to continue fundraising and giving financial support, because people have lost jobs, people need to be facilitated or supported, those who are seeking refuge to neighboring countries. People still need to be able to access health services. We have a lot of questions, like some of the clients who were accessing services at the Walter Reed project, which was a US research project that was closed. We don't know where they are today. We don't know what will happen to them now that a place where they were receiving services from has been closed. So these are all questions that we have in mind. And with our colleagues on ground, working underground, we have to find a possibility to ensure that they get onto drugs again or continue to access health services through those who are still willing to work with us.
And how old is your daughter?
She's 16.
And has she had any difficulty at all facing persecution?
I always try to be protective because I avoided visiting her school because I didn't want to put her on the front or to encounter any relationship between me and her through the parents, the teachers, or her colleagues at school.
Any other questions?
Let's check Twitter one more time.
Yes.
And you said that it was very difficult for you to decide to leave your community in Uganda. Do you have any dreams of when you think you will return? Do you plan on returning?
Returning at this moment is not something I have to begin thinking of, because as far as I know, if this law still exists, it's still very dangerous for me to go back home.
But if things do change, you would like to return?
Hopefully.
I understand there's another bill being proposed. Could you speak a little bit to that, more about that?
Sure, our understanding is that there is in formulation or has already been introduced a bill in the parliament that would criminalize or penalize foreign NGOs from assisting or promoting LGBTI rights in the country. But I think that's very much in the beginning stages right now.
And how does that relate to HIV health-related matters? Does it, or is it political, the bill, or what about the health pieces that he's?
Well, I think, so if you even look at the law that passed on February 24th, 2014, the Anti-Homosexuality Act, that already criminalizes by, I believe, 7 years prison sentence any promotion of quote-unquote homosexuality. And so there is, of course, the fear that even providing health services to LGBTI individuals and HIV-positive individuals could violate that law. The most recent example of this HIV clinic being raided is just one of many examples of how the LGBTI community is under attack today in Uganda. And that's why granting John's asylum application is so crucial.
That's helpful.
Yes?
Sorry, back to the daughter. What was her reaction to you staying in the US?
My family doesn't know I'm staying here.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't revealed to them.
Are you gonna tell them soon, or?
I can't tell them at the moment, because I just have to think if she's safe and she has to go back to school. And then until I know my status in the US, then probably I can come out to tell her.
Do you think that they'll be upset, or do you think they'll understand?
A few will understand, because it doesn't make sense having someone on ground who, it doesn't make sense going back and being put in jail, whereas it makes sense to be away but you're alive and you can still support or talk to somebody.
Any other questions from the internet or the room?
What role do you think you'll have in the U.S. now if your asylum is granted? What do you have you thought ahead of how you will take the charge and lead the?
There is a lot of work, and all this time I've been working with the councils. There is a lot of work. I just came back from the Twin Cities yesterday, and there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And even here in the US, I'm already seeing the potential of trying to see what can be done. I noticed that most of the forums I've been to, it's only white people coming, and I'm asking myself, where are the blacks, what's happening? So these are questions that begin running in my mind, and I think there is work either here or back home.
And are you based here in Boston, Cambridge, is that?
I'm based in Cambridge.
All right, if there's no more questions, thank you so much for coming again, and we'll be around to answer any further questions. Thank you.